Hello, everybody, and anybody who's actually watching this. Today, I wanted to make a just spontaneous video about Marceline and Simon. So, warning if you haven't seen the ending or just haven't seen Adventure Time in general or haven't seen Fiona and Cake, I will be talking about both of them. So, if you don't want spoilers, then don't watch. So I saw this edit by Guiles. I can't really pronounce their username, but their original edit on TikTok will be linked in the description, so if you wanna go watch that. But basically, the edit was just kind of showing how Marceline and Simon behaved in Fiona and Cake and their respective alternate dimensions without each other. And that just really got me thinking. I really enjoyed Fiona and Cake, and it's one of those series that I really should go back and rewatch. Because the main plot is so, I wouldn't, because it's not distracting in a bad way, but it really just needs all your attention that you don't really get to pay attention to a lot of small details and a lot of different things on the first watch. And I should have rewatched it, both Adventure Time and Fiona and Cake for this video, but like I said, this was just a very spontaneous video, so I just kind of had to go with like my creative juices, I guess, and I didn't really, have an opportunity to watch it. So in case I get anything wrong, or you simply just wanna give your own opinion and perspectives on this, feel free to comment. If I say anything wrong, feel free to correct me. Just please don't be rude. But yeah, and besides that, I was also told to say sorry for the thumbnail, that there's a lot of small mistakes since this was a very spontaneous video. It was a rush job, it's whatever. But yeah, let's start off with Marceline. Marceline from the series is, from the beginning, is portrayed to be like this very, is she friend, or is she meant to be more of an antagonist to the main characters of Jake and Finn? Which is kind of both at the beginning. She is sort of friendly with them in her own weird way, but she can do some very antagonistic things towards Jake and Finn. But the series continues, and as the series continues, Marceline has an opportunity to grow like the rest of the characters, and she becomes less antagonistic and more, because at the beginning Adventure Time was definitely a just meant to be like a silly show for you to watch and just kind of chill. But the series went on and developed, it became a lot deeper and a lot more serious. It still kept its funny tone and just very entertaining charm, but it definitely picked up in a lot more serious topics and just a serious tone for the show. And Marceline was one of those characters that just, whenever you got the opportunity to sit with her as a character, you kind of just damn, bro. This shit sucks. In the emotional way. Because Marceline, as the show continued, became, instead of a antagonistic character, more of a complex character that just simply didn't know how to express herself in a way that most characters would. Her and Bubblegum's relationship was a lot more complex, and that was mostly due to both of their communication issues that they both had for their own personal reasons. And as the series continued, you also learned about Marceline as a child, and how she was basically a lie while the whole zombie apocalypse kind of happened. And as a child, it's seeing Marceline end up as a full-on like antagonist in Fiona and Cake. It's sad to see. Like it's good to see because it just kind of, it's a fun thing to see. As a viewer, it's a fun thing to see, and story-wise, it also makes sense. She would end up that way without Simon's like guidance and just being her life in general. It makes sense. But it is sad to see that Marceline, being a very conscious child, like, you know, she was a child, but she knew that her mom was sick and that, you know, leaving her wasn't simply just like leaving her for a while, but leaving her outright. And then just in general was just a very like emotionally attentive child. Maybe not like crazy attentive, but like definitely a lot more than you would expect. And so it's sad to see that Marceline from Fiona and Cake definitely understands and sees that a lot of the things she does is wrong, but not really being able to do anything about it because of the people that she surrounded herself or was surrounded by. Because of the absence of Simon in her life is a very sad thing to see. And yeah, like it's very sad to see that Simon played such an important role in her life, which I mean makes sense because he was probably the only other parental figure she really had in her life after her mother. Since after Simon went crazy, she kind of just became a feral child. But yeah, it's Marceline's and Simon's relationship has always been very complex and very emotional in the series, and so seeing that she ends up in this antagonistic position without Simon, while still being very conscious about the decisions she's making, and kind of, you know, being more than aware that it's not really, you know, something that she would typically do, it is very sad. It's just very sad as a viewer to see a character that you really like, see them end up this way. But yeah, I'm very sorry if my thoughts are not very clear or if I like miss key points. I'm hoping once I do this video, maybe I will rewatch Fiona and Cake and Adventure Time, and I can do a updated version of this video. But for now, I'm mostly just ranting and just, you know, just talking. But now on to Simon. Simon is the one that I was mostly like intrigued, because the edit makes Marceline like I don't. It makes it out to seem more like Marceline was just like the bigger villain between the two, or like the worst person between the two, while the Winter King was honestly pretty bad. In my opinion. Like he was pretty bad. And it honestly makes a lot more sense why he is the way he is by the end of the series. The series does touch on how Simon was very, I don't want to say egotistical, but that's kind of like the word that's coming into my mind right now. He let his ego do a lot of the talking and decision making, and he was very selfish throughout a lot of his life. Whether he meant it or not, he was very ego driven and very selfish. We saw that with Betty, and we continue to see that with Betty, how he kept pushing his own decisions onto Betty while ignoring her decisions and her choices that she made, simply because Simon did not like them. And that's the thing with how, that's just how wild I find Marceline and Simon's relationship, is the fact that Simon did decide to stop being that selfish person he was with Betty when it came down to Marceline, and he gave away what I would say was he was most proud of, which was his mind, his knowledge, and decided to give all that away and go insane for the fact that he was protecting Marceline. Um, like that is just a very wild thing to see him do, knowing how he is in an alternate universe where um he doesn't have Marceline, and understanding that even the Simon that we know is still can be still a very selfish person. Um, so knowing that Marceline had this huge impact on him, where he was more than willing to sacrifice himself so that Marceline would have a chance of survival, is a very insane thing to see from a character like him. um like it really is just very crazy, very jarring. Because the I Winter King is still very, he is like how Simon was with Betty. He is very selfish, he's very ego driven, I would say. He, he sacrificed Bubblegum so that he would continue to have his sanity intact, and use Bubblegum as a vessel for the madness of the crown, and acted like he found a like concrete solution to it, while in reality it was only simply, like, I would say, a band-aid to the issue, because he still had to deal with the madness of the crown. Even if it was not affecting him direct, like mentally, it still affected him, since he still had to like constantly be fighting with Bubblegum, with Princess Bubblegum and stuff like that. So yeah, it's it is very wild how Marceline's and Simon's parental and child bond was very affecting towards both of them. But I would say it was mostly affecting towards Simon, since Marceline was able to change how selfish he was. Like she was able to make him think about actually this is why I said I probably would make an updated video about this, because now I'm thinking about it, was it selfish, or was it not selfish to sacrifice himself? Because that's not what Marceline wanted, but that's what he thought would be best. So was he still being selfish, or was he actually doing a sacrifice? Because in my mind it was not selfish, even though it was not something Marceline wanted and not something that she wanted to go through. I guess it was still selfish. There was probably no other way for Marceline to survive if it weren't for him using the crown. So I guess it was still selfish because he didn't take in consideration Marceline's feelings, the guilt she might be carrying, feeling that she is the reason why Simon went crazy. Because I do think you kind of see that in certain episodes, especially whenever her and the Ice King are like hanging out at her house and they start playing music and stuff like that. You can see how like desperate and like just desperate she is to get some semblance of the Simon she knew. So clearly it had been affecting her for like a very long time that Simon ended up as the Ice King so she could continue living, Like it is a very big thing for you to force somebody to carry when they make it clear they don't want to, and they don't want you to do the thing that you want, like the sacrifice you think you should be doing. So I guess he was still kind of selfish, but at least he was selfish for somebody else. Um, because with Betty, he was selfish for himself, and as the Winter King, he was still selfish for himself. Um, at least Simon was selfish for somebody else, even if it was still, kind of for him. This is what I said. This is what I'm saying. Like, I need to rewatch this series to really be able to make up my mind. Um, because yeah, I do think he was still selfish, but it was still a different type of selfish. Marceline still had a great like effect on his way of being a person. um just both of them in general were very impactful in each other's lives, and we saw what would happen without each other, and it's very sad to see, but it's also very interesting to see, and it's very, in a weird way, comforting to see that in the timeline we know and we cherish. um Seeing that Marceline and Simon are still as close as ever and are still constantly in each other's lives. There is some weird comfort in being, at least, knowing that, at least, even if there are other countless of fucked up dimensions and timelines, we still know that there is this one where they were able to reconnect and find each other and finally, I guess, at least for Marceline, kind of laid to rest that guilt she might have been feeling for the longest time. But yeah, that's it for today. Again, the original edit will be in the description, so if you want to go watch it. And if you have any thoughts, any corrections, please let me know. If you enjoyed, I would really appreciate a subscribe. I'm hoping to do more videos like these where I can talk about characters I like and just like yap your ear off. But yeah, that'll be it for today. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.